Hello and welcome to another edition of Lazy Book Club. I just got back from the beach and this is my beach read. Worthy. I gotta say, I'm loving the branding. It's like iridescent. Another library book, fine. And to be real with y'all, I think this is super relatable. I have so struggled with worthiness. When I got my human design certification, I found out that I have an open heart / open will center, and those people chronically struggle with worthiness. Okay, so maybe that's you. Tell me, are you interested in human design content? If you don't know what it is, or if you'd like more on it, comment below and let me know. If you know what your human design is, I'd love to know that as well. So, that all being said, I think what was really interesting for me is that I always felt like a very confident, high achieving person. And yet, how can someone who's really good at what they do struggle with feeling not good enough? And this book answers that question. So, if you're like me, kind of like, I've done therapy, I've done healing work, I've done all these things, and yet I'm still maybe playing small, as they say in the industry, then I think this book will really help you out. And as we do in Lazy Book Club, I'm going to just drop some knowledge on you. So if you can see if it's worth it to you to read the book. Otherwise, I'm going to just highlight my biggest takeaways from it. So let's get started. We're going to answer the worthiness dilemma. So why is worthiness the thing, and especially if you're someone who's trying to manifest beautiful things into your life, or in this case, maybe even manifesting money. Do you ever feel like, gosh, I'm doing all the things. Why is it not working? Well, according to this billionaire entrepreneur, so I'm going to give her some street cred for that, it's the worthiness piece that's missing for people. So let's get into it. So, hey, I'm Dr. Megan Monday. I'll be your Lazy Book Club Pleasure Psychologist. So, as you know, we're focused on helping women recover from trauma. You may not identify as having trauma. I personally believe we all have trauma. So, I think we're all healing and we're all desperately and deeply wanting to lean into pleasure. And so that's what this pleasure-based book club is all about. And if you're like me, you're busy. I mean, what I love the most about a beach vacation is actually being able to read. I promised not to do any work, but I did read this book. So I guess it was a little bit of work, but really it was pleasure reading. So if you love to read, but you maybe don't have time for it, this video is for you. So let's check out Jamie Kern Lima. To be honest with you, it was the branding. Anything sparkly is going to grab my attention. So that, along with the very succinct title, Worthy, How to Believe You Are Enough and Transform Your Life. They say when you're titling a book that you want to sort of be able to say, I want whatever the title of the book is. So I want to feel worthy. So gotta say, her branding team is on point. But like I said, I was a newbie. I really didn't know who Jamie Kern Lima is. As I was telling people about it, people do know her. And she was basically the co-founder of It Cosmetics. And I believe she wrote another book. I have it on a feature slide. I think it's something like It Girl or something along those lines. And she says she's obsessed with helping women know they're enough, overcome imposter syndrome, and step into their power. Yeah, girl, me too. I'm totally here for that. So there's a little bit of a religious Christian overtone. It's not super in your face, but if you're sensitive to that, that may not be for you. But she talks quite a bit about, not quite a bit, I think it's more in a spiritual sense, but if you're sensitive to that, that may not be a thing. I believe she identifies as a Christian. So the biggest compliment she ever received is, "You made me believe it was possible for me to launch my dream too." So actually, after reading this book, it made me really, really want to read her other book because it does seem like it was more business related. But I think she does a great job of taking pieces of her life, which, if you know human design, I'm a role model, so I do the same thing. You're supposed to teach through your life. I bet you money she is one, just based on how much she shared in her book. And I love the authenticity. I was watching some video, I don't know if this is true or not, but they said authenticity is the highest vibe that you can have. They were doing some kind of reading, being truly, truly yourself. And so I was like, oh, that's so permission giving. I love that. But again, I really didn't know her background, but I'll just go a little more into this in future slides, but she's a Bill B, billion-dollar business owner. So yeah, I'd say that's pretty impressive. So again, this is Lazy Book Club. It's done for you. We want to sort of advocate pleasure reading, but like I said, sometimes, unfortunately, the self-care things can become the bottom of our list when we get super busy. And actually, that's when we need it the most. So anyway, I got you. I'm here to help you out. Okay, so often we're waiting on worthiness. I thought she did a really good job. I'm so getting ahead of myself because I have pictures that go with this on future slides. But just to give you a little sneak peek, part of her success with her beauty brand was that she was way ahead of her time in the sense of having people with real skin and real skin problems as the models and showing like how effective it was at covering certain conditions like rosacea, things like that. Incidentally, while I was on vacation, I did go into like a beauty spa sort of thing where they put cream on like half your face and they show you the before and after. That was quite a moment. I think I need to write about that a bit because it was so interesting to be like, here I am in the middle of a sales pitch. She literally, the treatment did work, and like it wasn't like needles or anything, it was just like a cream, but like it was looking at like my 20-year-old self and then my 43-year-old self and like lopsided. And it was such a moment. It was such a compelling pitch, and it's like they're emphasizing why you need this but also trying not to insult you. So anyway, that's a total aside here, but I do think it's interesting that she came up in the beauty business and she did it at a time when there wasn't as much body positivity, there wasn't that kind of visibility. And so she has a great chapter in the book called "You're Not Crazy, You're Just First," which that's genius. I think that's probably one of my biggest takeaways from this whole thing. Also, seems like she's fluctuated with her weight. And so can you imagine being in some of those like literally she co-taught a course with Oprah. The whole opening chapter is how Oprah gives her her personal cell phone number and she doesn't call her for 4 years. And I was just like, oh my God, so relatable. So many little girls, myself included, grew up watching Oprah and like sort of dream of that level of exposure. To be real, like I can't even fathom that now. I don't necessarily think I would want that personally, but she doesn't call Oprah for 4 years. And guess why? Worthiness, waiting on worthiness. When I do my Fearless Feminine Academy, for most women, when they think about pushing record like I am now, so much like visibility, fears, body image stuff comes up. And so she's got a whole little chapter on, are you still waiting on your weight to live your best life? I think so many of us are. I mean, I know I wanted to do a YouTube channel like literally like 15 years ago, and like I'm just now getting to it. And then some of it was body image, some of it was confidence, some of it was just the tech. Tell me if you want some videos on behind the scenes of my business or YouTube development. I definitely have some thoughts on those. So many women are stuck believing the lie that my weight determines my worth. I gotta say, with self-help books, usually I am like sort of skipping around and thumbing the pages because they can just, to be real, get boring. But this one I did read cover to cover, which I think really, that's hard to do for a self-help book, especially with someone like myself who is, unmedicated ADHD, right? But it was gripping. And I think a lot of the chapters, which we'll get to in future slides, are the limiting beliefs. And this is an example of one of them. So let's just take a moment and pause. Take a moment to pause, connect with your inner light. What would it be like if you could trust the unseen forces are guiding you, even when the path seems unclear, and believe in the power of miracles? So we'll say it did have kind of a law of attraction thing. Obviously, she's taught a masterclass with Oprah, so it's like kind of in that vein. I'm kind of into that, so I was okay with it. But I do think with mindset, like, I know I already am a successful entrepreneur, and I know I'm destined to be in front of a lot of people and make a lot of money. But be like a billionaire, that is a miracle, and that is super impressive. And I think Jamie didn't think that was necessarily gonna be her destiny, but she released a lot of the worthiness wounds and really like targeted a lot of those limiting beliefs. So there's a lot of talk on the internet about being Delulu. And I think, I think that is a thing. I was listening to a coach on a workshop, and she was saying making $1 million on the internet is the easiest thing you can do. Sorry if that'll trigger some people. And I thought, well, that is kind of triggering. I definitely see lots of people making millions of dollars on the internet, but you like kind of have to believe that that's possible to be able to do it. So I'm just going to give you a little overview of the book, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper. She's got 4 different sections. The first section is seeing. So again, I've already sort of talked about this, but like, you're not crazy, you're just first. And then she has a great line about embracing rejection. I'm sure I've probably said this on a YouTube video because this is part of my shtick that I say all the time, but it's not rejection, it's protection. And she has a whole chapter on that. And that one has served me so well as a people pleaser. Another one kind of along those lines is, what other people think about you is none of your business. So love that one too. I think that they're like kind of 2 sides of the same coin here. The second part of the book is unlearning. And so this is where we release a lot of the limiting beliefs. And this is a lot of the work that I do in my coaching containers, and then also in my past life as a trauma therapist. And boy, they're insidious, right? So like, don't wait on your weight. I should only be seen when happy. I don't deserve better, blah, 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 right? And it's, maybe you're thinking I don't deserve better, but a lot of times with these limiting beliefs, they aren't conscious. They're either subconscious or unconscious. And so sometimes people are saying, I need to please them to love me. But a lot of times it's more like a pattern, and it's more like a program running a script in the background. And so I think a lot of these things are hard to pinpoint because, you might not be thinking, if I'm me, I won't be loved. Now, I do sometimes hear clients say that. So I think sometimes you might articulate the pattern, but it's not like, if you say something like, I'm stupid, or God, I can't believe I did that. Like, those are more common thoughts, right? Some of these things are just like right under the surface. And then when someone points them out, like she did in the book, you can be like, oh yeah, I may not think I don't deserve better, but I can see where I'm playing small in my life. So love doing limiting belief work, super powerful. There's so much to dismantle in that regard. We'll get into that on another slide. Number 3 is transforming. So, I'm all about some transformation. And she really hit the nail on the head with fulfillment. And she really talked about the difference between being confident and feeling worthy. Confidence is more performance-based, and it can keep you on that rat race. And so the fulfilling part was super powerful to see. And that's really an internal process. It's not necessarily related to external results. This is another good just like soundbite. Know your why, then fly girl fly. Okay, I love a rhyme. And I just think that that's so powerful because, and I think that's something sometimes talking about like releasing limiting beliefs, sometimes it's hard to even recognize like the scope of how big your why could be, right? Like, I really want to help women heal trauma through pleasure, right? And so that might have been the trauma work that I've done for the past 13 years, but it also might involve, millions of people like watching my stuff and learning from me. And to think about that does kind of boggle the mind. But like I said, with that one coach who said it's the easiest thing you can do, once you think like, yeah, I can totally do that, and that's my destiny, and it's the easiest thing to do, that releases a lot of the resistance, right? Another really good chapter was circle or cage. Is your support system a circle like of support, or is it a cage? And that's where they kind of say you want to be the least successful person in the room and soak up all the knowledge. One of the best sort of pieces of advice that I take is don't take advice from people who are less successful than you. So hashtag entrepreneur life, right? People who are not entrepreneurs love to tell entrepreneurs not to take risks, but entrepreneurship is risk, okay? And I think, Jamie does a great job of telling her story, and she got rejected over and over and over again, and specifically got rejected by, like, no one wants to see that. No one wants to see real women. So hair flip. Hate that mainstream narrative, right? But that was the narrative. And I do think so much capitalism is behind the patriarchy too, right? But she knew that if she could show the results of her makeup, that would sell out because real women wanted that problem solved. Okay. And so we overcomplicate marketing. It's literally about solving a problem. And she did that really well. Part 4 is knowing. So this one's kind of a closing, inspirational section about like your ticket to the moon, thinking bigger, as I've kind of been nodding to on this slide. She does kind of go into a little more religious stuff here and talking about like, who are you really doubting, your higher power or God, when we're having doubts. And she kind of does a thing to turn that back over, and that we really just need to trust and have faith and that kind of thing. So really good stuff. That's just like a quick little overview, and we'll dig into the meat of it. Okay, the It Girl. Hey, and I just love she's got this little strand out. I don't know. That's so much attitude. I love it. So again, I thought this book was really good. It is Pleasure Psychologist approved. And she really starts off by talking about the thing that changes everything. And she uses the Oprah example of not calling Oprah for 4 years, even though Oprah legit gave her her personal cell phone number, because she thought like, oh, she doesn't want to hear from me, or she's too busy, or like probably everybody hits her up, whatever. So it's just such a good reminder to, when an opportunity presents itself, go for it, right? But clearly she's on the cover of Success magazine. She's a billion-dollar business owner. So I think she knows a little bit what she's talking about. And I think it's not necessarily about the money. It's just like what you have to go through to get to that level of business, especially as a woman, right? And so she kind of covers how to get unstuck, unlearn the lies of self-doubt, embrace worthiness, trust yourself, love yourself, and believe yourself. And I do think, obviously, we hear a lot of this in the touchy-feely kind of like self-help industry. But I think one thing that's great in marketing and writing and everything is just being really specific. And to be real, that's like something I sometimes struggle with. But when we're talking about like worthiness, it can feel like such an abstract, it's like, think positive. And you're like, ugh, but she really gets specific about moments in her life and business lessons and all the things. And that really made it vulnerable and captivating for me. And I think that that's why I literally read it cover to cover. And yeah, I just love, she is like such a trailblazer in so many ways. And so I love that chapter that like, you're not crazy, you're just first. But legit, people will tell you you're crazy because it's kind of well-intentioned. They want to like keep you safe. They don't want you to take a big risk. They don't want you to like do the things. They don't want people to be mean to you on the internet, stuff like that. But like, if you don't take a risk, you're probably not going to go far, right? So how to embrace who you truly are, warts and flaws and wounds and all. And I think that that's something about worthiness that has some particular benefits in the trauma department, is like people defer it like, oh, well, when I'm loved, or like when I have a baby, or when I'm the perfect weight, or when I have money in the account, or when I stop doing these problematic things, then I'll be worthy. And so instead, this is really about like, nah, you got to be worthy now. And that worthiness is such a key component of embracing your hopes and dreams. All right, there's the It Girl. Believe it. Okay, I think It Girl could be part of it. And I think she's maybe been called out in some press. So I think that's where I got it. But believe it. Nice brand synchronicity there. Loving that. And she had It Cosmetics. And again, she basically said that she like struggled just to get her makeup in front of people. She got rejected like 1,000,000 times, and she really had to make peace with rejection. And she just was kind of relentless. It kind of reminded me of the Spanx founder. She would just show up in department stores and they'd be like, no, we don't want that. And she'd be like, no, you do want that, And so I do think, gosh, if you're thinking about entrepreneurship, especially entrepreneurship that's sales heavy, it's like being an actor and going to auditions. Like you have to be like so up your own butt. Like you have to be so relentless, and I think delusional to the point of like, no, this needs to be out there no matter what, no matter how many no's I hear. And that many no's gets you to the yeses, right? So how to go from underestimated to unstoppable. Yes, please. Who doesn't want that? I know I do. So, sometimes with these book clubs, we play Never Have I Ever. I don't know if that'll apply to every single book, but I thought that this could be a good one. Have you ever felt imposter syndrome? I'm going to say that that's a yes, particularly for my women who are watching this. If you're feeling like you just up leveled and you're not good enough, or you keep getting like degrees or certificates to feel good, or you feel like when something good happens, they're just going to take it all away from you. These are all aspects of imposter syndrome. And I think this is sort of that happens particularly to women. And I think it's an outgrowth of the patriarchy. It can happen to all people, of course. And then the more marginalized identities you have, like the exponential that is. But often the imposter thing is like the people who really are imposters and are not good at what they do, a lot of times they are overly confident, right? And so it's this weird thing of you do know what you're doing, but you still don't feel good enough. And so this is where she talks about the difference between confidence and worthiness. And this was like a huge aha moment for me. And like, I teach this stuff. Why did I not know this? Whatever. I'm a super confident person. I have a lot of skills and abilities. I've had a lot of success in my life. But when you're confident and you don't, I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but I just can't resist. When you're confident, but sort of that like goalpost keeps extending, like, okay, well, I made this money, but now I have to make this much amount of money, or like, okay, I got the house, but now I gotta have the baby, or like whatever your thing is. So I would kind of ask myself, like, why do I not feel good enough when I know like I am good enough, right? Worthiness, that's the thing. It's a lie. And as Jamie says, it's time to unlearn that lie. Yes, please. So I think this is one of those things of what has self-doubt already cost you in your life. Yeah. If you think about it, probably a lot, because shame makes us want to hide. That's the hardwired reaction to shame. And so she says here, we don't become what we want, we become what we believe we're worthy of in our relationships, our life, our career, our hopes and dreams. I love the book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. I'm going to have to do that one maybe next. That was one of the first coaching books I read. He's a psychologist. He talks about the upper limit, where when we start to do better than our worthiness threshold, we start to self-sabotage because we feel like we don't deserve it. Like if you have to give a big speech and then you get sick, that's sort of that imposter syndrome, upper limit thing happening. It's so much nicer than psychology calling it self-destructive, right? Okay, so this is the slide that I've been like teasing this whole time, which is the self-worth versus self-confidence. So high self-confidence says, I got this. High self-worth says, I got this, and even if I fail, I know I'm already worthy regardless of the outcome. Ooh, unconditional acceptance and positive regard. That's like what we therapists strive for with our clients. But I can really relate to this because I started to get burned out as a trauma therapist, knew I wanted to write and speak and do YouTube, had all these visibility, worthiness things, right? And then when I wasn't like an immediate success and people, when I wasn't like overnight millionaire, I thought like, why don't people like me? Why am I not good enough? Right. And so I didn't have that worthiness. Like I thought like, yeah, I got this. And I was investing and I got this. Right. But it was much harder to get to the points of like, I'm there now. But like, I got this. And even if I fail, I know I'm always worthy. Right. And so for me, I really had to turn from, I'm not going to measure my worth by dollars, although you can see how seductive that is as I'm like featuring a billionaire here. Instead, I'm just going to love myself through the process. And if this helps people, that was the whole why from the first place. Right. And so even if it, is a gift from my heart, which it truly is, and that's all it becomes, like that's it. That is my why. So we won regardless of outcome. And when you can get that mindful detachment, that's a magic. That makes things so much easier, especially like committing to however long it takes. I know I'm on my path. I know I'm meant to do this. Not like if I don't make this by then I quit, And so basically this was a great testament to just keep going. And she says a great little piece here. As an entrepreneur, you've got to get good at cheering for yourself because sometimes you're the only one doing it. Okay, hello. Currently my YouTube has 11 subscribers. Literally my daughter's 11-year-old friend started a YouTube channel, and I will say she is a good little marketer because she reached out to everybody she knew and asked them to like her YouTube channel, which I have not done. However, I have been promoting it quite a bit. And so I'm like, am I being like emasculated? Well, that's probably not the right word since I'm a woman, but like, am I feeling inferior to an 11-year-old? Like, WTF, right? But this is it, as an entrepreneur, you're going through all the things. It takes a lot of time and energy, even money. I have a team that helps me do all this. Yay, shout out to my amazing team, Andrea and Leone. I couldn't do it without them. I definitely couldn't do it at this level without them. They make all my stuff look so good. But most people cheer you on after you make it. And so when you post something really vulnerable, and even like the act of posting or putting your offer out there or starting a business or putting a deposit down on a place or like whatever version of that you're doing, you got to be so in your corner, because even your loved ones may not be really supportive of it. They may try to talk you out of it, right? It's only after the fact. It's like the Oprah levels, or it's like when she sold the business and people are like, oh my God, a billionaire, right? But when she was knocking on the doors trying to get the yeses, people thought she was crazy, right? Another good one is pray as though everything dependent on God, work as though everything dependent on you. So this is a St. Augustine quote. I will say this, I'm a quote person. Tell me if you love quotes. Like, I just opened up at random here. Helping people face their own brokenness is easy. The dilemma is to help them face their stunning beauty. Unknown. So she starts every chapter out with a quote, and then there's a lot of like quotes sprinkled in. And I was like, when I am going to do this lazy book club presentation, I pretty much just want to like grab all the quotes in the book because they were so good. But there was so many of them I could not. But just like reading the quotes alone, golden. So I do think like we do want to surrender and trust the process, trust God, embrace the rejection as protection. Do that on your own terms with whatever feels good to you, the bigger picture, source, like whatever. Or if you don't believe in that, that's fine too. I guess it just depends on you then. But I do think it is helpful to have like sort of a higher power is controlling the thing in some way, just to know at some level that it's not all on you, but that you're still going to show up. Like we're doing right here. Thank you for watching. So appreciative. So this one I think was like the best quote I found from her, which actually I don't think was in the book, but if I was her, one day I'll say this myself. I've been a CEO of a $1 billion company and I've been a mom. Being a mom is harder, which really puts motherhood in perspective. Tell me in the comments if you're a mom and if you agree with this statement, because I think probably most moms will agree. I just had to throw that in there because it was just like, oh, I feel so valid. I feel so seen with this quote, right? And so I think she really is like masterful at doing that. And I think it's because she like legit has been through all the things, which I think is such what you're looking for in a role model. Okay, so unlearning the lies. Okay, I'm getting so long-winded here. I don't want to take too long with this video, but I do want to go through each one of these as a chapter, and I felt like this was the most valuable part of the book. We touched on don't wait on your weight. I should only be seen when I'm happy. I think this creates a lot of emotional bypassing and is a huge block to authenticity. And so like asking for help is such a huge part of being a human, super important and helpful if you're an entrepreneur, just important all the way around. I don't deserve better. I think this is a sneaky one. That's definitely a shame-based thought. And so like she says, it's sort of like standards over boundaries. And I really like that perspective. I don't have anything special to offer. I think this is more of an entrepreneurship one, but it can come out in many ways. And so again, just recognizing that like if you have a personal brand, like you are the thing, and there may be other people doing similar things, but they're not doing it the way that you're doing it. If I stand out, I'll get kicked out. And so I think this is definitely one where we feel like, oh, if they really knew the real me, they would hate me, right? I hear that a lot. Here I am noticing that I put double quotations or like quotations instead of an apostrophe, right? And so I'm sitting here going like, oh, I messed up. But like, this is where we just do radical acceptance. And that's been one of the best parts of being a therapist is like when I mess up, I just make a big deal out of it. And I'm like, see, you can be great and you can mess up, right? So I'm doing that now. I'm an imposter. I'm not enough. I put the wrong punctuation and then I publicize it to everyone. Right, I'm just teasing here. If I'm me, I won't be loved. I was doing this a little bit late last night, so I think that's why the punctuation got a little out of hand here. And labels aren't permanent. And I think the labels aren't permanent is a really good one. Some of these are kind of a bit cliche. We've heard it before, but the labels aren't permanent, I think is really good because boy, do I see people like grasp onto labels. And so like if you've been a trauma survivor, if that's an important label to you, like awesome, but like also like that doesn't have to be true your entire life, or alcoholic or dumb, or I don't know, whatever your label is. Highly recommend that part of the book. If you are going to skim it, that's where you want to skim. Okay, so healing worthiness, just some final thoughts. You weren't rejected. I hid your value from them because they are not assigned to your destiny. Okay, you know, destiny caught my mind because that's my one-on-one program name. And I believe it, which is crucial because sometimes we think these things aspirationally, but we need to fully embody them and we need them to be like so real. It's like the coach saying like it's the easiest thing to do, and she believes that. That's the difference between me just saying it and kind of being like, oh, it's been hard for me, right? We got to go like, no, it's easy. This is natural. This is my destiny, right? Another good one is you can't hide from yourself and heal at the same time. And I see this with overachieving women is a lot of times they don't even want to say I have trauma when like a lot of times like they do have a lot of trauma. Like we all do, right? It's like people who say they have a happy childhood. Not so much. Even if you did, like no one gets through childhood unscathed. And then, as I said, you sort of have the high self-confidence versus high self-worth. And she really did turn my mind and got me to believe that I've been kind of doing it wrong and like basing it to external things versus really just recognizing that I have an intrinsic sense of worth. And even though I've told people this for years, you gotta believe it and embody it and live it. And even when you're not seeing it show up, have faith that it will. And that's it. Thank you so much for coming. Definitely recommend this book. This was a good one. And I think it was a great mindset, which is such a big part of this channel. So again, thank you for watching. Bye.